was a hunter. He got separated from the rest of his party. He wandered aimlessly about in the woods for 4 days, hopelessly lost. Finally, he stumbled upon another hunter who had made camp. He was so excited. "Thank God I found you," he said. "I've been wandering these woods for 4 days." The other hunter said, "Don't get too excited. I've been lost for 4 weeks." Have you ever been lost? And I don't mean just lost in the woods or lost on the roads like we are almost every day. If it wasn't for our GPS, we'd never make it to this meeting. But have you been lost on the road of life? Who are your GPS people? Who are those authorities that you look to? Who are those people that tell you where to go? Now, I mentioned the GPS people because for me, the GPS is the be-all, end-all authority on where I'm going and how I'm going to get there. I mean, the nice lady, and I point to my phone because that's where she lives, has thousands of dollars, billions of dollars of technology and satellites and maps backing her. If she doesn't know where I am, I'm in big trouble. And there's people in our lives that are like that with our goals. If they don't know where we are, we're in big trouble. But how seriously do we listen to these people? And are there times where they're just as lost as we are? I get lost a lot, and I come by this honestly. I think that my internal GPS was broken in utero. My mother and I, no matter where we went, would always give ourselves an extra hour of lost time. We learned this about ourselves one time. We're Washington State residents, and we're driving out to Ocean Shores. We have been there every year for 15 years. There is one road in and one road out. It's the same road. 5 miles away from the Oregon border, which, by the way, is a completely different area from the Washington coast, we realized we missed that road. And the only way we knew, because we didn't have a GPS, was because we were driving and talking, and all of a sudden we noticed that the silos from the nuclear plant were on the right-hand side. They're not supposed to be on the right-hand side. In fact, until that day, we didn't know there were 2 nuclear plants in the state of Washington. So we had to turn our car around and go a completely different route and do the dreaded thing. Stop and ask directions. Now, the reason asking directions is so scary is because you'll always get a fine gentleman who will give you very specific directions. "Oh yeah, I just head east there on the 405 and take a left when you're getting past the..." No, honey, no. I don't know where east is. Don't tell me east. Tell me turn left at the Taco Bell. I can find it then. And after you get past 2 directions, I'm lost and we haven't even moved yet. If it's more than 2 turns, write it down, draw me a map. Just come with me. I've decided that the perfect GPS for me are those people with the giant arrows. You know, the ones that are out there pointing to new buildings or car washes. I want one on every corner with my name on it. If I could just have those across this great nation, I'd never get lost. Sure, it'd be expensive, but imagine the jobs I'd be creating. So next time you see somebody holding a sign going, take me. But my GPS, she's a nice lady. She's a kind lady. She's a patient lady. We call her the bitch. Because even though her voice doesn't change, we can almost hear her roll her eyes when she says, recalculating. And even though she stays calm as I'm trying to figure out where she's telling me to go, she gets a little frantic and starts telling me to do things like take a left, and then another left, and then a U-turn. Take a U-turn to the left. Stop! Take the next legal U-turn. Wait, take this U-turn. Take U-turns. And I've learned just in the short time I've lived here in Las Vegas that we take U-turns a lot. See, these weren't allowed in Washington. So every time she tells me to take a U-turn, I find myself talking back to her. I'm not so, oh, I guess I can do that here, can't I? There's even little signs telling me I can. So I'm taking U-turns a lot. One of the things I appreciate about her, though, is that she never screams in panic when I'm driving backwards down an on-ramp, hopping curves, making 90-degree turns, trying to find where she's telling me to go, coming to a complete stop when there's people behind me. She doesn't grab the old crap handle and roll down the window and shriek for help like my passengers do. Ingrates. But she will calmly direct me to where she thinks it is I need to go. Jim and I recently had an experience with this very GPS system. We were going someplace that we were unfamiliar with, but we kind of knew how to get there. Now, this applies to a lot of areas in our life. How many of you have set goals? The goal is clear. You know where you're going. The direction to get there is clear. You pretty much know how to get there. But once you get close to the goal, the details are kind of hazy. This is where the GPS comes in. This is where your GPS people work the best for you. So we typed in the destination, even though we knew the direction and we knew where we were going, because it was kind of hazy right before we got there. As we left our house and we were getting on the main freeway, she started getting upset. Turn left on Titus. We can't turn left on Titus, we're on the freeway. Take the next legal U-turn. Can't take the next legal U-turn, we're on the freeway. All the way there, if you looked at her route and you looked at our route, she was a block off. She had us going through fields, over lakes, over the tops of Costco's, and frantically telling us to turn down all these different driveways and make U-turns and do all these things, but we knew where we were going. Ish. At the very least, we knew we were on the right road. At what point do you turn off the authority, the one who's supposed to know where you're going? Because you know that you're already going the right way, and they're a block off. Now, there's a lot of us in here that have made big life decisions. We want to be actors, comedians, dentists, and people in our life have said, oh, I don't know. You might want to be a veterinarian or an accountant or a singer. And we knew in our heart exactly what our goal looked like. And the path we needed to get there, just the part right around it was a little hazy. Did we have the guts to turn off those GPS people long enough to get to that point? Or did we give up? Did we listen to the authority, the one that was backed with all the experience and the research and the history? Or did we say, you know, I think you're a block off my goal, and I think I'm going in the right direction? I can say, as a 6-year-old child, I was going to be a veterinarian. I was bringing home animals of every ilk. I mean, snakes, it didn't matter. Horses, yes, we actually adopted horses. Dogs, cats, everybody called me Ellie Mae, because I had pigtails, and I was always bringing home a new critter. For those of you who don't get the reference, we'll talk later. There's now a movie. I wanted to be a vet, and I would put bandages around the broken tail of a snake that my cat drug in. And my poor cat would always have wrapped legs. If he sneezed, I would take care of him. I had a pet squirrel. I had a pet raven. I had a house-trained rabbit. That was what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but the destination was clear. All through grade school, I wrote stories, and I wrote articles. I even got published for poems that I wrote about animals. That is what I wanted to do. And my mom said, how are you going to pay the bills? Now, keep in mind, my mom was a musician. That's how she made her living. And she didn't want me to follow her route. She didn't want me to follow her path because her destination, well, she didn't get there. Have you ever followed a GPS and it says you have now arrived at your destination and you haven't? And the thing about that is that the GPS is perfectly okay with that. As far as the GPS is concerned, you're there. There's a huge difference between fact and opinion. And sometimes the things that we accept as fact really is just someone's opinion. When we were traveling down the road and she was a block off, her fact was that we were going through the fields and the rivers and over the roofs of things. It was more of an opinion when you looked at where we really were. My mom was the same way. If you follow your dream, if you follow what you truly want to do, you'll always be hungry and you'll never feel fulfilled. So I became an accountant. I'm happy to say I'm a recovering accountant. But the great thing about my mom is that she came around. It was like moving one of those giant satellites to point somewhere else. And she finally saw that her goals were always a block off. She never wanted to be a musician. She was just talented. What she wanted to do was be a writer. And her GPS people told her it wasn't possible. And all of a sudden, at 60 years old, on her deathbed, she realized, oops, I don't want that for you. And when she found out that I was no longer interested in being a veterinarian, but now I wanted to be a writer, she was behind me. Not telling me how to get there because it was still fuzzy for her too. But willing to tell me, I think you're on the right path. And it was a whole new experience for me, a little late in life. But at least I knew she was on the same block. She's no longer a block off. And even though my mom and I would get hopelessly lost, no matter where we went, this was the first time that we really didn't care if we got lost, as long as we did it together. So my mom did get to see my first book, and she did get to see me compete as a speaker. All these things that she thought were silly and frivolous that I should never do. And she did get to see me quit being an accountant. Jim and I joke, he's a tunaholic. Hello, my name is Melanie, I'm a recovering accountant. It's been 4 years since I balanced a checkbook. Don't have a checkbook now, so it's all good. But when you think about where it is you're going, you know in your gut, you know in your heart, where the destination is. It's that shining beacon at the end. It's clear. The details and how you get there might be a little hazy. But the path that you take, the freeway that you take, is usually pretty clear. Never let the GPS people of your life force you to be a block off of your goals. Ultimately, no matter how lost you get, someone will help you get back on the path. But they don't necessarily have to walk it with you. Next time you set a goal for yourself, think of who your GPS people are. Spouse, partner, parent, best friend. And imagine what they'd say when you come up with this harebrained scheme. And then think to yourself, is it fact or is it opinion? And are they a block off? Because a block can make all the difference.